Welcome to the sci-fi world. Like and subscribe for more great content. Princess Celestia's heart raced as she dashed through the gilded corridors of the Astrian palace. The walls, once symbols of the security and strength of her people, now seemed to echo with the desperate urgency of the alarms blaring overhead. Her blue skin glistened under the warm chandelier lights, which reflected off polished marble floors that stretched out like rivers of white and gold beneath her hurried steps. The heart of Astria, the ancient, ethereal relic, pulsed with a warmth she could feel through her hands as she held it close. It was more than just a precious artifact. It was the lifeblood of her people, the key to their survival, and the hope she clung to now, with her world crumbling around her. She had barely escaped the main chamber, slipping out through a hidden passage just as the Rayan forces breached the outer defenses. It was only a matter of time before they reached her. She could already hear the distant clatter of Rayan boots and the cries of her people as guards and staff scattered, their fear-ridden eyes mirroring her own sense of helplessness. Her ceremonial robes flowed behind her like a royal banner, shimmering with gold-threaded details that spoke of her high station and responsibilities. But now the heavy, intricate fabric clung to her legs, hindering her escape. With a swift tug, she tore at the fabric, ripping the hem in a single stroke that left a glinting trail of gold across the polished floors. The gesture felt almost sacrilegious, a princess tearing her royal garb in desperation. But it was necessary, a small sacrifice for her life, and, she hoped, the future of her people. She sprinted onward, the echo of her torn robes like the last whispers of her title falling behind her, just as her guard captain appeared from an intersecting hallway. His face was set in a fierce mask of determination, though the glint of fear in his eyes betrayed the toll the Rayan invasion had taken. "Princess, there's no time to waste. The Rayans are closing in on all sides," he said, his voice tight and barely containing his urgency. "We must get you to your ship immediately." Celestia's heart pounded, the artifact pressed firmly against her chest, its pulsing warmth mingling with her own frantic heartbeat. She forced herself to breathe, keeping her expression calm and controlled, a steady mask that had become second nature over years of royal duty. She gave him a single, resolute nod. "Lead the way," she replied, her voice as steady as she could make it. Even in these desperate moments, she would not show fear. Her people looked to her as their strength, their symbol of resilience. She could not afford to falter now, even as the enemy closed in. Together, they sprinted down the endless halls of the palace, darting between towering marble pillars, skirting statues of Astrian heroes whose gazes seemed to follow her with silent reverence. The route felt surreal, familiar yet foreign, as if she were leaving behind not just her palace but a part of herself. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, urging her onward. "A true ruler does not turn back, Celestia," he would say, "but they also know when to walk away." It was one of his many lessons she now clung to like a lifeline. At last, they burst into the palace hangar, a vast chamber that housed her personal ship, a sleek vessel primed for diplomatic missions and now desperate escapes. The engines were already humming, a low, comforting sound that promised safety, escape, and a brief reprieve from the nightmare that had engulfed her world. She could see her guards setting up final barricades, faces tense and expressions grim as they awaited the inevitable assault. But the Rayans had anticipated her escape. Even as she ran toward the ship, a searing volley of blaster fire erupted, cutting through the air in bursts of blue and red. Sparks flew as the guards fell, their bodies crumpling under the unforgiving blasts. Celestia hesitated for a split second, her gaze flickering over the fallen soldiers who had laid down their lives to protect her. Her heart twisted, the weight of their sacrifice pressing down on her, but she forced herself to look away. There was no time for mourning. To honor them, she had to survive. She climbed aboard her ship, her fingers a blur as they danced over the controls, initiating launch protocols she knew by heart. Through the viewport, she could see the Rayans closing in, their black armor and visored helmets rendering them cold, faceless specters of destruction. With a final push, she launched the ship into the sky, the palace shrinking below her as she ascended, weaving through bursts of enemy fire that lit up the sky like deadly comets. As she prepared the coordinates for a quantum jump, intending to reach the distant CAC system, a stronghold known for its formidable warriors, A sudden tremor rocked the ship. A Rayan vessel had targeted her, its precision strike rattling her propulsion system. Her control panel flared to life, sparking and blinking as alarms screamed. The ship lurched violently, and she was thrown against the side, her vision blurring as the quantum coordinates she'd set spun out of control. She barely had time to react before a powerful surge ripped through the ship, a force so overwhelming she could only close her eyes as her world went dark. When she came to, Celestia's head throbbed with a dull, relentless ache. She opened her eyes slowly, her vision hazy as she tried to make sense of her surroundings. The control panel before her was cracked, wires dangling like torn veins from the exposed circuitry. Her fingers brushed her forehead, coming away smeared with blood, and she grimaced as she took in the extent of the damage. The ship's viewport was fractured, revealing a swirling view of blue and green, a planet that loomed below, its surface a mixture of lush forests and sprawling oceans. Earth, a primitive, pre-quantum world that hadn't even developed the technology to reach the stars, let alone understand the battles waged across them. A place far removed from the realm of galactic politics, where beings like her existed only in legends and imagination. She fought against a wave of dizziness, her hands trembling as she forced the controls into some semblance of functionality. She was hurtling toward the planet's surface, her ship caught in the unforgiving grip of its atmosphere. Every muscle tensed as she struggled to stabilize her descent, feeling the intense heat build up around the hull. With a final desperate maneuver, she managed to slow her ship just enough to survive the impact. Her vessel skidded across an open area, a cacophony of metal and sparks filling her senses as the ship tore a jagged path through the ground. She came to a jarring stop on the outskirts of a secluded facility, the silence that followed ringing in her ears like an echo of the chaos she'd just endured. The hatch groaned as she forced it open, her muscles protesting with every move. Smoke poured from the wreckage, curling into the sky like tendrils of a spectral hand. She staggered out, bracing herself against the charred hull, her senses dulled and disoriented. Just as she steadied herself, she saw movement, a figure approaching from the haze, his strides slow and casual, as if he were taking a morning walk and not approaching the crash site of an alien ship. The man appeared to be in his mid-30s, with an easy, unbothered demeanor that seemed almost surreal in the circumstances. He was rugged, dressed in simple clothes, with a calmness that felt entirely out of place amidst the destruction and the smoke. "Well, you don't see this every day," he remarked, his voice light, his mouth curving into a crooked smile. "Name's Kay. Need a hand?" Celestia blinked, her mind struggling to reconcile his relaxed approach with the gravity of the situation. She expected him to recoil in shock or flee, yet he seemed almost entertained. She considered him with a mixture of caution and intrigue, assessing the man who, inexplicably, was unfazed by her appearance or her ship's fiery descent. With the Rayon forces undoubtedly closing in, she needed an ally, and for the moment, he was her only option. She gave him a small, reluctant nod. Kay extended his hand, helping her down from the battered hull. His grip was steady, his hands warm and calloused, and she felt an unexpected spark of connection. There was a grounded strength in his touch, something reassuring in its simplicity. As he led her to his workshop, she noticed how he moved, with a strange, unhurried confidence, as though leading an alien princess to safety was nothing out of the ordinary. His workshop was a curious blend of chaos and order, a space filled with machinery, half-finished projects, and tools scattered across every available surface. It had a warmth, a humanness, that contrasted sharply with the sterile, advanced technology she was used to. Here, everything felt personal, every tool a testament to hands that had shaped, mended, and created. She looked around, trying to imagine his life in this workshop, surrounded by tangible, grounded objects that held the weight of purpose and effort. As they settled in, she heard the ominous hum of Rayon scout ships overhead, her pulse quickening. But Kay only glanced upward with a shrug, completely unfazed. "Relax," he said with a casual smile. "They won't find us here." Celestia's instincts urged caution, yet his calmness had a strange effect on her. She wasn't used to relying on others, especially not someone so grounded. Yet there was something about his unshakable confidence that was oddly comforting, a reassurance that she couldn't quite explain. Days passed in hiding, each one laced with tension as Rayan patrols combed the area. But every time they drew close, Kay's luck seemed to intervene. Whether it was a misplaced board, a flickering light, or a creaking door at just the right moment. Each time the Rayans left empty-handed, and Celestia could only watch with growing fascination. It was as though the universe itself bent around him, protecting them from detection in ways that defied explanation. As she observed him, her fascination grew, transforming into something deeper, something unexpected. She found herself marveling at his calm, his resilience, his sense of humor that shone even in the darkest moments. In him, she saw a strength that was unlike anything she'd ever known, an unyielding force, not of combat or strategy, but of grounded acceptance and unwavering presence. One evening, after yet another close call, Kay invited her to his apartment, a cozy sanctuary hidden in the heart of the city. She accepted, drawn to this man who had become her refuge in a world so foreign. Over cups of dark coffee, she began to share fragments of her world, the burdens she carried in the story of the heart of Astria, a relic that bound her people, activated only through the bond of two compatible souls. Kay listened, his gaze steady and intent, a warmth in his eyes that eased the weight of Celestia's words. For the first time, she felt free to speak openly, the words flowing from her, without the careful restraint she wore in her royal duties. She told him of her people, of the hopes and dreams they had placed upon her, of the immense power within the heart of Astria, a power that needed to be protected at all costs. She shared the sacrifices she'd made, the constant vigilance, the weight of duty she carried every day of her life. He nodded thoughtfully, never interrupting, and she could feel his quiet acceptance enveloping her. The intensity of his gaze held her, a steadying anchor she hadn't realized she needed. When she finished, he looked at her with a faint smile, as though seeing her not as a princess nor a warrior, but simply as Celestia. They spent the night talking, his easy humor disarming her with each passing moment, the tension between them transforming into a delicate, unspoken connection. His stories, though simple, filled her with a strange sense of joy. An ordinary life, rich with moments she'd never experienced. Tales of long nights working on machines, of fishing trips, and accidental mishaps that somehow always worked in his favor. Every story unfolded with a charm and warmth that pulled her closer, softening her heart in ways she couldn't explain. As dawn approached, she realized with a jolt how much she had let her guard down. But she didn't feel regret. Instead, there was a sense of liberation, a feeling that for the first time in her life, she could simply be herself. In the following days, the Rayans intensified their search, their relentless pursuit inching closer and closer. Yet as if orchestrated by fate itself, Kay's uncanny luck shielded them. One evening, as she watched him work on an engine part, she caught herself wondering if his luck was more than mere coincidence. She saw him move, each gesture precise yet casual, like he was part of a larger cosmic rhythm. Her curiosity grew. Who was this man, really? Finally, after another tense close call, Kay surprised her. "Come with me," he said, his voice barely more than a murmur. She followed him through the city, slipping through alleys and back streets until they reached a rooftop garden nestled atop an old building. Twinkling string lights cast a warm glow across the space, and the city lights stretched out before them, a sparkling tapestry of life and movement. Celestia stood there, transfixed, as Kay turned to her, a hand extended. "Would you dance with me, princess?" he asked, his voice soft but full of warmth. Her heart fluttered as she accepted, her hand slipping into his as he pulled her close. Under the open sky, they swayed together, a slow, gentle rhythm that echoed the heartbeat of the world around them. She felt the heart of Astria grow warm against her chest, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. The barrier between their worlds faded in that moment, leaving only the two of them, moving as one beneath the stars. The warmth between them, the gentle pressure of his hand on her back, the sound of his breathing. It was unlike anything she had ever experienced. In his arms, the demands of duty, the weight of the artifact, and even the fear of the Rayans melted away. She felt herself give in to the moment, and she looked into his eyes, feeling a connection that went beyond words, beyond logic. They danced until the early hours, exchanging only whispers and smiles, a quiet intimacy growing between them. But just as they began to lose themselves in each other's gaze, the sound of distant engines shattered the peace. Rayan troops had picked up her signal. Kay took her hand and led her through a series of hideouts, a network of secret paths and hidden rooms he seemed to know instinctively. With each turn, they evaded detection, his improbable luck guiding them through alleys and abandoned buildings until they finally reached a secluded beach house, far from the prying eyes of the Rayans. The house was small, nestled against the edge of the shore, with waves lapping gently against the sand outside. In the quiet of the beach house, Celestia felt her guard slipping further, the boundary between duty and desire blurring with each moment. She gazed at him, the man who had protected her, who had made her feel like more than a title or a role. When Kay leaned in, his hand brushing her cheek, she didn't pull away. Instead, she closed the distance, her lips meeting his in a kiss that was soft at first, tentative. But as the heart of Astria pulsed between them, amplifying the warmth of their connection, the kiss deepened, leaving them both breathless. The artifact responded to their bond, radiating energy that enveloped them, casting a warm, gentle glow throughout the room. She could feel the power of the heart, its energy intertwined with her emotions, magnifying the intensity of the moment. It was as if the artifact itself recognized their connection, acknowledging the strength and unity between them. As the dawn broke, reality crept back, reminding them of the looming danger. They prepared for the inevitable confrontation with the Rayan Supreme Commander, who had been tracking the artifact with relentless precision. In those last moments before the fight, Kay confessed the truth about his power. He had no formal training, no supernatural abilities, only an extraordinary streak of luck that had always guided him. The knowledge left her shaken, yet filled her with a strange, fierce hope. She realized that it was the heart, amplifying his luck, transforming his simple fortune into something more powerful, more potent. As they braced for the final showdown, she felt a surge of determination, a fierce, protective love that fueled her resolve. The Rayan Supreme Commander arrived with an elite squad, demanding the artifact with a cold, ruthless authority. But as the battle began, Celestia and Kay moved in perfect harmony, the artifact channeling their bond into a series of improbably graceful dodges and parries. They danced around the commander's attacks as if guided by an unseen hand, each movement an intricate step in a cosmic waltz that left the Rayons bewildered. With each blast they dodged, each strike they deflected. They could feel the artifact's power solidify their connection, binding them into something unstoppable. At last, with a final surge of energy, the heart of Astria reflected the commander's final attack back at him, scattering his forces and sending the Rayans fleeing. The battlefield fell silent, and as the smoke cleared, Celestia and Kay stood victorious, their bond unbreakable, sealed by the power of the heart. In the years that followed, they built a life together by the ocean. Their beachside home became a place of peace, a sanctuary where they raised their twin children, Aaron and Lyra, who shared Celestia's radiant blue skin and Kay's uncanny knack for luck. Their lives unfolded in a rhythm of love, laughter, and the quiet magic of small, everyday moments. The sound of waves crashing mingled with the laughter of their children, filling their world with joy. The twins were a boundless source of happiness and wonder. As toddlers, Aaron and Lyra had inherited their father's extraordinary luck. But with a twist, they seemed to bend reality around them in subtle ways, objects shifting to prevent accidents, stray waves receding just before they reached the shore. Kay would laugh, marveling at the ways the world seemed to reshape itself for their children, while Celestia watched in awe, feeling the presence of the heart in their little lives. One evening, as the family sat around the dinner table, a gentle hum filled the room. The heart of Astria, now hanging above their hearth, pulsed with light, filling the room with a warm, golden glow. Kay looked up, his brow furrowing with curiosity. "Is it supposed to do that?" he asked, his voice laced with both wonder and humor. Celestia felt a familiar hum within her, a gentle vibration that resonated with her very soul. She understood at once. The heart was responding to the bond they had all formed, a love that transcended duty, blood, and fate. Lyra, her small hands reaching up toward the light, giggled in wonder, her eyes reflecting the artifact's glow. As she touched the heart, a surge of warmth enveloped them, filling the room with a powerful sense of connection and unity. In that moment, Celestia glimpsed visions of the future. Aaron and Lyra, grown and strong, forging their own paths, their bond with the heart a testament to love, fate, and legacy. She saw herself and Kay side by side, watching over them with pride and guidance, their family a symbol of the incredible power of love. Life moved on, filled with small joys, laughter, and the occasional adventure. Kay became the heart of their world, sharing stories, inventing wild games, and bringing lightness and humor into every corner of their lives. Celestia, who had once carried the weight of duty alone, found herself embracing the beauty of simplicity, grateful for the gift of family. One quiet afternoon, as they sat on the porch watching the waves, Kay turned to her, a smile tugging at his lips. "You know," he began, his tone playful yet sincere, "I never imagined my life would be like this. A princess, two incredible kids, and a cosmic relic in my living room. It's like the dream I didn't know I had." Celestia rested her head on his shoulder, her heart filled with peace. "All my life I was trained for war, diplomacy, duty. But with you I've learned what it is to live. Just to be." The waves rolled in, a steady rhythm that echoed the journey they had taken together. In the stillness, Celestia felt the weight of their shared history, their bond deeper than any cosmic power or royal title. They had found happiness, a love that defied fate and reason, a love that had brought two worlds together. As Aaron and Lyra grew, Celestia and Kay shared the stories of Astria, the battles, and the magic of the heart of Astria, tales that filled their children's hearts with wonder. They raised them with the strength to carry their legacy, knowing that they were the bridge between worlds, a testament to the unity that love could bring. And on starlit nights, when the children slept and the world was quiet, Celestia and Kay would sit on the beach, watching the stars shimmer above them, their fingers intertwined as they whispered promises for the future. The heart of Astria glowed softly from their home, casting its warm light on the sand. "I still feel like the luckiest man in the galaxy," Kay would say, his eyes reflecting the starlight, filled with that familiar warmth and mischief. Celestia would smile, her heart swelling with a love that spanned the galaxies. "And I am the luckiest princess, for I've found a love that went beyond anything I ever knew." As they held each other beneath the vast expanse of the cosmos, they knew their story was far from over. No matter where life took them, they would face it together, bound by a love that had defied the stars and reshaped their fates. In the warmth of their bond, they found eternity, a testament to the improbable, beautiful, and everlasting connection they shared.